Hello there, my name's Rev Kev and thank you for choosing this video. I'm filming this in September 2024. These images have absolutely nothing to do with the video I'm about to tell you about. I own a 1958 Norton Dominator, which is rather a splendid bike. I owned it for a while and I went for a good ride. I went down a sweeping right-hand bend. It had a T-junction at the end and I had enormous brake fade. And I decided at that moment I needed to do something about my single leading shoe front brake. I looked online for various different options, second-hand, refurbished items and people that were manufacturing these from new. And in all honesty, I couldn't really find anything other than the ones that are offered by RGM Norton Limited. Now, RGM Norton Limited have nothing to do with this video. They've not offered me any freebies or anything like that. But I decided I'd go for an RGM item. They didn't at the time have any that were already built, so the only option was to really go for one which required me to build it. I looked online, I looked for various articles. I couldn't see anything where somebody had taken the steps to build one of their twin leading shoes. So I thought, well, while I put this twin leading shoe together, which I did probably mid 2022, so the videos have been, as they say, in the can for a while, but I thought what I'll do is I will video my experience of putting this together, flaws and all. I've never done anything like this before. I'm not an engineer, but I have access to reasonable tools. So I thought I would video my experience and put it online, hopefully to help others who are looking at the same. I plan, once I've finished this, to offer first sight to RGM. I'm not sure whether they'll approve of it or not. If I've got some things really wrong, I might choose to correct that, perhaps with text over the video. But I plan to put this on YouTube just as it is. So this is my story of working with an RGM in parts twin leading shoe right up to the point until I constructed it. Hopefully you'll find this video interesting. This is my first YouTube video and very probably my last. Thank you. So here we are in the workshop. I've cleared the bench, as you can see. Sorry about the flickering light. It's to do with the fact I've got LED lights in here. And I've looked at the part sheet. I've tried to identify everything which is on the list that I got from RGM. And I have to admit that I haven't been able to identify everything which is on the list. So and particularly things like the 2x1/2 wavy washer stainless. I've also gone through and read the twin leader notes a couple of times, and again I can't quite see where all these pieces actually fit together. So what I'm going to do now, as I've got the box here, you can see I've opened the top. I'm going to open up the box. I'm going to see what parts we've got in there and see if that helps me to further identify what is what. So once I've got all the parts laid out, I'll try and name them and then I'll perhaps film another little clip at that point. So here we are again a few minutes later. I've been talking to myself for a few minutes because I thought I was already recording, but not to worry. So what I'm going to do now is I've laid all the parts out on the bench, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go against my list just to make sure that I've got everything. As you can see, I've already marked some of these because I thought I was recording this already. That just shows what an amateur I am. So with the brake plate, we've got this beautiful brake plate over here. So we've got that, mark that off on the list. One plain pivot. It's in this bag here. That's the plain pivot there. It's the shorter one that we've got there. We've then got one torque stop pivot, which is the longer one. And what that does, it's got a slot there that fits into the slot which is on the road holder forks. That's what stops the whole brake plate spinning round when you put your brake on. So that's the torque stop pivot. We then got two cams. Here are the two cams, which are in separate plastic bags there. So that's the two cams. We then got a cable stop, which is the cable stop here, threaded for the adjuster, which is on the Commando actually brake cable that comes from Ben Hill. So that's the cable stop there. We then got two brake shoe return springs, which are clearly those two brake shoe return springs there. We then got two 7/16 UNF half width pivot nuts, and again through a process of elimination, these must be and I've measured them with a measuring gauge. So those are the two 7/16 UNF half width pivot nuts, which I assume at the moment will go onto the end of these pivots there to hold those in place. We've then got an inlet plate. This is over here, fits onto the front of the brake plate there. So we've got an inlet plate. We've then got the gauze. This is the gauze, which will then be araldited into place here as an air outlet from the brake plate. So that's the where are we? So that's the gauze. We then got 3 times 1/4 flat washers for tie bolts. Now I assume these are the 3 1/4 flat bolts. I must admit at the moment I'm not entirely sure where they go. I think they go in the end of the cable stop, and I think they probably go into the ends of the two pivots. I'm guessing at the moment. I'll work this out as I go along. We then got so that's the 3 flat washers. We then got a bush set. Here is the bush set. You'll see in here that there's, you perhaps can't see very well because I've not taken anything out of the packages yet, just to keep everything in order. So there's 2 longer bushes in there, and there's 2 shorter bushes. And just from the instructions that I've got, it suggests that you put in you press in the longer bushes first, and in each of these holes where the cams go in, there's going to be 2 bushes in each, a short one in the front and if I can call it that, and the 2 longer ones in the back. So those are that's the bush set. We then got the MZ Gold brake shoes. There's your MZ Gold brake shoes. We then got the 6 hammer drive screws. Here are the 6 hammer drive screws, which I will put with the inlet plate, because those hammer drive screws will hold that inlet plate in place. We've then got 2 wavy washers. Again, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure where those wavy washers will fit. They're suitable for the 7/16 UNF nuts, which will go on the ends of the pivot. I think I will ring RGM on Monday. I'm filming this late on a Saturday evening. I think I will phone them on Monday to find out if my guess is right with that. We've then got 2 shoe locating plates, which I think are these here. These are the 2 shoe locating plates. So I'll mark those off. We've then got 3 by 1/4 UNF by half bolt for the cable stops. So here are the 3 bolts, and again, I'm guessing they go into the end of the cable stop, as it says on the part list, and probably in the ends of the pivots. But I'll probably confirm that with RGM as well on Monday. We then got the 3 lock washers for those same bolts so the 3 lock washers, and then it says 2 shims for the cams, which I'm assuming are these. I'm guessing that's what they are. I've measured them again with the gauge, and they are the right size to go onto those onto the cams. But again, I'm not entirely sure why they wanted or how they're going to fit. But no doubt I'll work that out as I go. And very helpfully, RGM also send some araldite as for the putting on of the gauze onto the brake plate. And finally, there's a linkage arm and rod assembly, stainless, supplied, polished and assembled. And again, here this is, looks really lovely. I haven't opened any of that, as you can see at the moment, because I'm just working out what I've got and where it actually goes. So here we are. I think I've now identified everything that we've got in the what came through from RGM. I've checked it off against the parts list here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to go through the instructions. But I think one of the first jobs that I will do, which I probably won't film because that'd be pretty boring for you all, is that one of the first things I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to polish the brake plate. That's what I think I would like to do. I'm going to polish the brake plate, and then I'm going to put the brake plate into the oven and to warm it up to about 100 degrees, and then I'm going to push in the bushes. So I probably won't film any of that because it's not going to be particularly interesting. So what I'll do is I'll get back to you when I've got something else that might be interesting to say. Hi there, it's me again. One of the first things that is suggested to be done in the instructions here is laying out the components, which clearly I've done, judging fits, checking the cams engage with the operating arms easily enough. What I've done is I've checked the cams in this shorter operating arm, and it fits in there really quite easily. Struggling a bit to actually get the cams to engage with this longer operating arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look carefully as to whether there might be some sharp edges or some burrs in here that just might need to be smoothed out, so I can make sure that the cam engages easily. And what I've done is I've tried both cams in both of the slots, and it's the same. Both will fit quite well into the shorter arm, but they don't fit at all into the longer arm. So that's what I'm going to have a look at next. So here we are, got the arm in the vise. Use my dad's old square file. Didn't need to take an awful lot out, just a little bit. I decided to take a little bit off, then try the cam, then take a little bit off, then try the cam. And hopefully you can probably see, the cam now fits into there really easily. So that was a good job to do at this stage, because if I'd put the whole brake together and then found that the cams didn't fit, it really would have been, it wouldn't have been helpful, let's just put it that way. So I thought I'd just show you this, as I've got the cams now fitting into the arms. I just thought I'd try the nut and bolt on the ends of the cams to make sure it all goes together. Please I did, because one of the nuts was just a little bit tight, but having taken it on and off a couple of times, it all looks really good. So I'll take that apart and have a look at what else needs to be checked over. A couple of other things I've just done now is I put the cable stop, which is there. I made sure that fitted reasonably well into there. Wouldn't push all the way through, but I'm sure that once I start to do the nut up when I'm fitting that properly, I'm sure that will work quite well. Also made sure that it was threading on nicely onto the cable adjuster, onto the brake cable. The other thing I did was look at the 7/16 UNF nuts and just made sure that they fit nicely on the pivots. Again, we're a little bit stiff, so I wanted to make sure they went on and off fairly easily while they were all disassembled. What I'm doing here is I'm just getting a sense for how the brake will look from the inside. Now I've decided not, obviously I can't put the cams in place because I've not yet got the bushes pressed in, and the pivots, they're a little tight, and I think I don't want to push them in now and then try and take them out and then damage the brake plate. So I think I'm going to put them in once, But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and reconstruct what this will look like, but without the brake plate in place, just so I can see how things fit together. Well, this is what it's going to start to look like once it's on the inside, once I start to put it together. Now, I'm pleased I did do this because one of the shoe locating plates, in fact this one here, is very tight on the top of this pivot. So I'm just going to need to open that out a little bit with a round file. And also I found, as you can see, there's some scoring on this one, that actually once I put it on the cam, it was also very tight on the cam, and clearly we don't want anything which is going to be stopping that cam from turning, not freely, but it certainly wants to be turning easily in order that it can operate the brake shoes. I haven't put on the springs because that would have been just a bridge too far, I think. I've kept the brake plates in the protective packaging for now, because really I don't want anything to contaminate the surface of those. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to open out, I think, some of these holes on the shoe locating plates, and then I think that's probably about me done with matching things up to try and make sure they all fit nice and easily. So here we are then. So I'm not sure I can do it one-handed, but the cams now fit really nicely into the locating plates. They are turning quite nicely there on both of them. And also they now fit really well into the ends of the pivots. So I think I'll just try them both. There we are. Well, that one's still, oh no, that one's okay. So they're all freed up now. So as I said, I think what I'll do next is polish the base plate. Now I've still not done the brake plate, still not done that. So I'll polish that and then heat that up, put the bushes in, and then start to put this thing together. So here we are then. I've given it the base, the brake plate, a bit of a polish. Don't want to see my face in it particularly, but it's just tidied it up a bit. There's a few marks on it where I think the alloy had been trimmed up after the casting, and I just wanted to get rid of those scratches a little bit. So that's what I've done. Also, I realised that as my motorcycle is mostly got Whitworth nuts and bolts on it, I had to scratch my head and think, do I have some 3/4 inch AF ring spanners available for when I come to put the thing together? I have got a 3/4 ring spanner, thankfully, but also I found that, I know you probably shouldn't do this sort of thing, but a 19mm metric will also fit just as well. So I'll put those aside for when we come to start assembling. So for now, I think I need to call it a night. I need to take this in. I should probably see if I can get this in the oven tonight without anybody noticing. To fit the bush set, and I think I might actually also just pop the pivots in as well, because they were a little tight, and it might help if it was heated up. So that's the next job to do. So we're back in the workshop. I must admit that these outlet gauzes, the gauzes over the outlet, I think is the least satisfactory part about this twin leading shoe. What I originally thought I would do was try and bend the gauze and try and stick it onto this bit here. But once I'd sort of formed it a little bit, it really didn't look very good once you turned it over and looked on the other side. So in the end, as you can see, I've cut out the gauze to the shape. I used a Sharpie and then cut it out with scissors. It was quite easy to do. And then used the Araldite to stick it in. But because the gauze was perhaps lifting up a little bit at the corner. And the araldite really wasn't going off very quickly. It wasn't hardening very quickly. In the end, I weighed them down with a pile of coins on each one of these. Now, I think they look really good. I think once you turn them over, I think they look excellent. But I think that this area does require a bit more thought as to how you can put that gauze in. Sticking it on with araldite doesn't seem the most satisfactory way of doing it. So the other things I need to report on is the bushes, putting the bushes in. You can see they're in here, but they didn't go in as I was originally planning on doing. I asked a very good friend of mine from church called Brian, and he is a mechanic, been working on machinery all his life. And I said, Brian, I'm planning on doing this at the weekend. What do you think? And he said, no, I wouldn't heat it up because that can cause problems. He said, let me have it and I'll press it in for you. Well, actually, what he did, he didn't need to take it into his workshop. What we managed to do is we managed to use a bolt with a nut and a washer on either side, and basically very slowly, by putting the bush just onto the edge of where we wanted it to go in, and then gradually tightening up the nut and bolt, we pushed in very effectively, very calmly, and in a really controlled way, the larger bush which goes on the inside, and then we followed that up from the inner bush. Sorry, the bush that then goes, the smaller bush that goes on the outside. Hopefully that makes sense. So that was really satisfying, and it was done in a really controlled way, and I'm really pleased with where the bushes are. I'll just stop the video while I get the cams out. There we are now with the cams, and we tried the cams in the bushes, and they go in and turn really well. So that's worked really well on that side. So then we come to the pivots. I realised that one of the pivots, the one that's got the torque stop on it, wouldn't go easily into the holes. This is the other pivot, and as you can see, this just drops in really quite easily into both of the holes. But the torque stop wouldn't. As you can see, it still won't go into that hole very easily. And what we realised, we've tried measuring it with a feeler gauge. It's too small even to measure. But the diameter on the torque stop is slightly larger, probably only by a few thou or even 1 thou, than the other pivot. So what we ended up having to do is we ended up having to drill out this hole so that the torque stop would go in there, as you can see. So again, I think I'm going to follow up with RGM to find just to point out that actually that this is being manufactured slightly larger than its mate here, and it's making the job just a little bit more difficult, and you need a little bit more engineering equipment. We had a bench drill, and we managed to drill it out really easily, again using my friend's experience. But that particular job, I probably could have got the bushes in on my own. I probably wouldn't have done them as well as we ended up doing them without my friend's expertise. But that would have been quite a problem for me, I think. I'm not sure how I would have sorted that out on my own if I hadn't had his equipment and his expertise. So that's all for now. I'm going to now start putting the rest of the shoe together. So the next job I've just done is to put on the inlet plate. I did just put a little drop of araldite on the screws, the hammer screws, as they were going in. Did use a drift. Unfortunately, I slightly missed just there, but we're all full of imperfections, and this is going to have a tiny imperfection. Bit sorry that happened, but hey, put it down to my own cack-handedness. But I do think that looks really quite nice. So that's the air intake. So I've got the air intake, and I've got the air, the outlet gauze in place, bushes pressed in. Onto the next job. Okay, I've turned the plate over now, and I'm going to put in the pivot that's got the torque stop on it. What I've done is I've got the old single leading shoe off the bike, and as you can see, the torque stop just about points directly to the centre of the hub. So that's how I'm going to align this one. So I'll do the nut up and then do the second pivot while I'm at it. So what I've done here, having fitted the torque stop to the brake plate, I've just put it onto the front axle without the wheel in place, as you can see, just to make sure that the torque stop just fit into the slider on the road holder forks, and everything looks to be aligned really well. Oh, also forgot to say that I did confirm with RGM that the wavy washer does fit under the bolt, under the nut for the pivots. So that's the torque pivot now in place, lined up with the centre. I've checked it on the bike, and now I'm going to do up the other pivot. Okay, the next job I'm going to do is put in the cable stop. What I've done is I've just I've put the cams in loosely. I've put the linkage arm in place, only so that I can. I'm just going to use this bar of the feeler gauge, the measuring gauge, to just pop in there for pointing out, to make sure that I get the cable stop in line with the end of the linkage arm. So once that looks all nicely lined up there, I will now do up the bolt on the other side, which will pull that through. In fact, in doing up the nut at the back, I did get it slightly out of line. So what I've done now is I've put in the Van Hill cable. I've screwed it into the cable stop, and I've just twisted it in line to all make sure that cable lines up really well. So the cams are now fitted. I've lightly greased them. I've lightly greased the faces as well using a high temperature copper grease. I'm now going to get the shoes out and fit the shoes. Now I've fitted the shoes over the pivots. I've also taken the precaution of putting on a clean pair of new gloves, so I haven't got any grease or anything on my fingers as I'm now dealing with the brake shoes. Now I'm going to get the springs and fit those. There we go, both springs on now. I've just found out by trial and error it is easier to hook the wire on the spring that's nearest the pivot, not nearest the cam, and then have the wire going down, the loop of the wire going down, and then pulling from this side, not making myself awfully clear, but it's easier to hook the spring on this side first, nearest the cam, and then pull towards the pivot, and then drop the end of the spring over. That seems to be the easiest way of doing that. I think now I've got to turn the brake plate over and fit the linkage arm. So I've turned the brake plate over. I've now fitted the linkage arms. They just fitted on really easily because I did take the opportunity before I put the shoes on with the springs. Is just trying to get the faces of the cam to line up, and I think that might have helped. And if I've got the adjustable bar just about as short as you can possibly get it, which probably with new shoes that may be what you need to do, but I'll find out as I come to adjust the brake itself. Now just going to do the two domed nuts up. So we're nearly there. Little bit of Loctite on the nuts, as I have done with on the bolts rather, as I have done with all the other bolts. Dome nuts are now done up. The very last job is to turn it over and to fit the fit these, forgotten what they're called, fit the linkage pieces. These might be a little bit interesting to get. Oh no, it's just slotted on easily. Let's have a look at the other one. Oh, and that's actually gone on easily as well. So the last job now is to just do up the bolt in the retaining bolt in here and here, and then I think we're good to go. We're good to actually try fitting it to the bike. Okay, schoolboy error, which I've now corrected. I've just had to take the linkage arm off because I'd got the cam the wrong way around. I'd got the this piece pointing inwards, where in fact it should go outwards. So you've got the machined face against the flat of the brake shoe. So I've just had to take everything off again, take the linkage arm off, and turn that round. But thankfully, I noticed it at this point. Let's check the other one. Yeah, the other one's okay. I noticed it at this point, rather than fitting the brake, which would have been a bit disastrous if I'd done that. So just need to carefully go through the steps and make sure we remember the overall picture of what you're trying to achieve. So here we are. This is what we've taken off, which is a single leading shoe brake, perfectly usable, but I just like the idea of having a bit more braking power. So here we are, the completed article, all fitted, all the connecting plates or whatever they're called. I've forgotten. Linkage, not linkage arms, shoe locating plates. That's what they're called. These all done up, all nice and clean. Anything I now need to do is fit it on the bike. Hopefully this video has been useful for you. This is probably the first and last video that I'll ever post on this sort of subject. Thank you. Okay, video postscript. What I thought to do is just sort of dry fit the brake into the drum on the bench here, and just trying the lever to see if it would brake and return, and it wasn't. It was sticking about there. So what I've done is I've taken it out again, and it was actually one of the shoe locating plates was so tight on the cam that it's actually stopping the cam from operating. So I'm just going to have to open that hole out a little bit so that frees up the operation of that cam, and then hopefully all will be working well. Hello, we're back in the garage after a few weeks delay, which I'll try to explain why that is. Well, partly it was because that the cable that is provided with this brake is suitable for a Norton Commando, and the reason is that the adjuster here is a 24 teeth per inch adjuster, and in which case you have to have the cable stop, which was sitting there, also having 24 teeth per inch. That makes perfect sense. However, I think that the Commando must have had an adjuster also at the brake lever, because the amount of inner cable I've got is just too long. I can't actually adjust the brake. So that left me with a number of things to consider. What was I going to do? The only adjustment I've got is actually on this end of the cable. I haven't got anything at the brake lever. This is my original Dominator brake cable, and you'll see that the adjuster at here is actually longer. It's about ½ an inch longer than this adjuster that came on the Norton brake cable. So, thinking I might need a bit more adjustment on my brake cable, I've decided I want to use that adjuster, keep that adjuster. But then, of course, it means that the cable stop, which is 24 teeth per inch, won't fit that, which is 26 teeth per inch. Now, I was given some advice, I don't think it was sound advice, that I could run a 26 teeth per inch tap through that, and then it would remove about half the threads,
but it would be okay because there's a stop there. But I wasn't really, as this is my front brake, I wasn't really confident with doing that. So this is where I had to turn to a really good friend of mine, who is not a mechanic. He's an engineer. My friend called Eric, and he manufactured for me a completely new cable stop. This is 26 teeth per inch, but you'll also notice that he's made it slightly longer, and the reason is that he made it longer is so that the adjuster would sit really nicely on the cable stop. So this has been a bit of a delay. I hadn't really expected to have to do this. I do wonder when these are manufactured and produced, I wonder whether perhaps having two cable stops, you know, or an option of a 24 teeth per inch or a 26 teeth per inch cable stop might be an option, but certainly it's something I've had to do because I wanted to retain the greater degree of flexibility with that cable adjuster. Hopefully that all makes sense. So what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to put it all back together again with this new cable stop. I shall then put it on the bike and see if my old Dominator brake cable, which was actually quite a new brake cable, it's only about a year old, which I got from Ben Hill as well, if my old Dominator brake cable will then be okay for the bike. Okay, hopefully this will be fairly plain sailing, but who knows.
It's a bit of a squeeze, but hopefully you can see that well enough. There is the finished article. I'm filming this as I did at the start of this video in September 2024. I've been using this brake now since February 23. It is excellent. It's a really good stopper. When I'm two up, needing to stop, you can really rely on this brake. So it's an excellent brake. So this is now officially the end of this video, and hopefully it's been useful to you. Hopefully you could put up with my misidentification of nuts and bolts and various different things that I've done. If it's of help, that's great. As I said, this is probably the only video I'm ever going to post like this. So hopefully it's been helpful to you. Goodbye.